Well, NATO is getting ready to preemptively attack Russia. You can't make this up. And it makes sense. NATO and Europe have thrown everything they can at this conflict. And of course, it hasn't worked. Now, their next plan is to preemptively attack Russia. Desperate people do desperate things when they're backed into a corner. And as Moon of Alabama so astutely pointed out in a piece this morning, Politico was the first to report this insane idea. Europe thinks the unthinkable, retaliating against Russia. Yeah, it's unthinkable, right? So, quoting now from this piece, Russia's drones and agents are unleashing attacks across NATO countries. Lie. And a lot of that has been already debunked, but doesn't matter, right? Ursula von der Leyen even said that her plane was like kept in the air too long thanks to Russia, like Russia was doing it. Turns out that was also debunked and proven wrong. So there's a lot of like fake stories about how Russia's attacking NATO countries right now. Anyway, NATO countries and Europe is now doing what would have seemed outlandish just a few years ago. Now NATO is planning how to hit back. Ideas range from joint offensive cyber operations against Russia and faster, more coordinated attribution of hybrid attacks, whatever that means. Quickly pointing the finger at Moscow to surprise NATO-led military exercises. So these are 2 European government officials and 3 EU diplomats are quoted as saying, thanks to Politico. Financial Times also on this. NATO considers being more aggressive against Russia's hybrid warfare. Quoting now, Italian Admiral Giuseppe Covo Dragoni told the Financial Times that the Western military alliance was looking at stepping up its response to hybrid warfare from Moscow. Some diplomats, especially from Eastern European countries, have urged NATO to stop being merely reactive and now hit back. Okay. And they say a preemptive strike could be considered a defensive action. So we're going to preemptively attack Russia, but we're going to call it defensive because Russia is going to attack us, even though there's no evidence at all that Russia has any intention of planning to hit other NATO countries. This provocation. And when you can imagine, of course, the Russians are taking this very seriously. They know exactly what they're up to. Putin responded by saying this: we will go from being a special military operation to full-blown war overnight. Watch.
I've said that 100 times. We have no plans of fighting against Europe. But if Europe wants to fight and if they start this fight, then we are ready right now. There is no doubt about this. But the only question is, if Europe starts the war, unleashes this war, because that's not Ukraine. With Ukraine, we use some surgical means. We are trying to be really careful. Because you understand why. This is not a war in the direct sense of the word. And Europe, all of a sudden, wants to start a war. And if it does start a war, then very rapidly there might be a situation where we have no one to negotiate with.
Because there won't be anyone left, because this will be a World War III. So did you hear his point? I mean, what we've been doing against Ukraine has been like small and like surgical, special military operation. So Europe wants to actually go into a full-blown war with Russia? Absolutely madness. So you guys have heard of the bearskin hoodie, right? It's my favorite hoodie. It's the one I'm wearing right now with the removable patches on the side. This thing is built like a tank. This thing is incredibly warm when I walk the dog. It just turned really cold. We got a big cold front that came down from Wyoming. So it's a perfect season to wear your hoodie. And bearskin makes these fantastic hoodies that are built like a tank with 340 GSM microfleece, 10 pockets, a clean, rugged fit that looks awesome. And right now is the best time to grab it because you get 60% off. Right now, they're running a deal for our viewers, 60% off. This is a perfect gift for the upcoming holidays. And this thing looks awesome. It feels great. It zips right into the heavy rainstorm jacket also. So if you're out, you know it's going to pour down rain, you slide the shell right over the top of it, and the Velcro, just perfect. It just works. It's 100% waterproof when you need it. So if it turns wet, cold, windy, you're not scrambling last minute. You'll get free U.S. shipping, fast delivery, and you've locked in your winter gear already. That's a win-win. So do yourself a favor right now. Text the word redacted to 36912 to lock in 60% off. Again, text the word redacted to 36912. You'll get a link sent straight to your phone so you can check it later if you're busy right now. Oh, and one more thing I should mention. When you support Bearskin, you're also supporting the Fallen Outdoors and the Hope for the Warriors Veterans Program. So you're not just buying some great gear for yourself, you're actually backing a cause that matters as well. So don't wait till you're freezing to realize that your hoodie sucks. Get a bearskin right now while it's 60% off. Text the word redacted to 36912.
Absolutely, it is. All right. Well, now it all makes sense. This war with Venezuela is a war with Iran. They are basically the same, used to justify a It's a twofer. Guys, this is what we get. A war with Venezuela will help us hit back at Iran. If you think this sounds like a lazy recycling of the Iran-Contra scandal, you're right, except we actually did that. Now we're saying it exists, but we're not at fault. We're going to go bombing people. Here's Marco Rubio saying that Venezuela is the foothold of Iran in the Western Hemisphere.
The Venezuelan regime is a source of instability in the entire region. Over 8 million Venezuelans have flooded into neighboring countries as a result of the regime's activities within their own country, including into the United States. They also happen to be the foothold of Iran. That's not spoken about enough. Iran, its IRGC, and even Hezbollah has a presence in South America, and one of their anchor presence, especially for the Iranians, is inside of Venezuela.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Hezbollah is in Venezuela. Okay.
Yeah. Iran's in Venezuela now. Okay, now it all makes sense.
They're about 2 months away from having a nuke.
Right.
Just like Iran was trying to assassinate Trump. Yeah, now it all makes sense.
Yeah, I was going to say, did they find Iran's drone ship, the mothership, outside of
off New Jersey,
like hovering over Venezuela?
Yeah. Remember the Iranian drone ship was it was a mothership. It was not even just a drone. It was a mothership that was off the coast of New Jersey, and we have to stop them.
Well, let's do a little study, shall we? Okay. Here's a good book if you're interested in learning about Hezbollah. If you actually study Hezbollah, not the way Hillary Clinton uses them as a boogeyman, but what they actually are, you will understand the entire reason that Hezbollah was founded was to resist Israel's oppression of Arabic people. They were created when Israel invaded Lebanon in the 1980s, and they are extremists who believe that anyone connected to Western influence is fair target, including Americans and Israelis. They have no focus on South Americans at all. In fact, they are such Muslim extremists that they execute their own people in their own ranks, even for minor corruption, and their jihad forbids drug use and drug selling. Is there any proof, though, that they have sort of went outside their borders to enrich themselves with the drug trade in South America? There is not. Are there Lebanese people involved in the drug trade in South America? Sure, just like there are Italians, Colombians, Americans even. This would be the equivalent of Rubio saying, well, there are Catholic churches in Venezuela, so the Vatican is plotting a war. But can we prove it to fundraise for a war with Hezbollah, which gets us, if we go, as my grandma would say, go around your elbow to get to your backside, then can we get that war we want with Iran? I have not seen proof, but there are mountains of proof that the U.S. intelligence agencies have had their hand in the drug war in South America for decades. That part's magically left out. Now, the Wall Street Journal, here they are running cover for the war that the administration wants, saying, oh, yes, cocaine routes in Venezuela are absolutely a part of some Islamic jihad pipeline. What they leave out here is the long-standing history of the CIA's role in the South American drug trade, including the biggest scandal of all, Iran-Contra. So it was us that was supplying weapons to Iran and extremists in order to fund the drug trade. We did that. So for Marco Rubio to say Iran's doing that, but we did that. That's why the cartels were empowered. Okay, that's not mentioned at all. Is this the craziest thing? The CIA literally enabled cocaine networks through South America, or Central America, especially during the 1980s. They did collaborate with the Venezuelan National Guard generals who moved tons of cocaine into the United States. Exactly, 60 Minutes reported this in the 1990s when they still did good reporting. The U.S. built, funded, trained, and shielded many of the military and police units in Latin America that later became the cartel. How do we know this? Not just from, I'm going to show you another book if we're collecting libraries today. This book. If you read this, you will not buy any of this BS. Alfred McCoy has been a whistleblower about the CIA's role in the drug trade for decades. If we had listened to him, we would have been much better off. Not just his great reporting, though. In the late 1998, there was this CIA report called the HITS report that concluded that the CIA did participate in cocaine trafficking during the Contra War and knowingly maintained relationships with and protected numerous Contra-linked individuals involved in the drug trade, and they hid this from Congress. Now, here's the kicker. The Iran-Contra comes from the U.S. secretly selling weapons to Iran, illegally then funneling the profits to the Contras, the same network tied to the cocaine trafficking. It was all one pipeline. Strange that the Wall Street Journal leaves that out, right? That it's all along been Iran. Where they get that money to begin with, it's always been us. Now, what our role is in this now, I don't know. Most likely, this did not stop. This, to me, now shows how Rubio can kind of lazily recycle an old narrative and point the finger at Venezuela and then Iran without any proof. It's as bad as weapons of mass destruction. I will follow it because, when the administration says Iran has a nuke, we look it up. We read the books. We talk to the experts. We haven't found it. Usually we come up empty when we follow a government war propaganda. But okay, we'll look. Now, Nick Fuentes was on InfoWars recently. He said that this Muslim problem in the United States is not what right-wing politicians claim, and that it's being used to sell us further wars in the Middle East. He's right about that. The U.S. Muslim population is about 1%. There is no demographic path to any kind of cultural takeover. That seems to be increasingly a right-wing talking point. Where is it? Again, show me the evidence. Here he is saying that this is a manufactured war, preparing the public for a war that the administration, the government wants. Watch.
Well, in terms of the Muslims, I continue to believe this is really not a major problem for the United States. Just in terms of pure numbers, Muslims are about 1% of the United States and concentrated in a few enclaves like in Minneapolis and in Dearborn. And of course, there's a lot of them in New York, and there's even some in Chicago. And Texas, there's a big story about that Grand Mosque they're trying to build. And of course, I don't like that. But even in the context of the demographic problem, the biggest immigrant groups into the United States in the past 30 years, it's Mexicans, Indians, Chinese, Northern Triangle, Filipino, like those are the major groups. And so if you're talking about America changing demographically or culturally, it's a Latin American and an Asian problem. It's a Chinese and an Indian problem. In Europe, that is where they have a Muslim problem. That is where they have Pakistanis and Middle Easterners and Africans pouring in by the millions, and they represent most of the non-white population in those places. And so there, I think that's totally true, and it's a real problem. Over here in the United States, I think that is basically a deflection. I think that any time that somebody talks about our Jewish elite, because we do have Jewish oligarchs like Larry Ellison and Mary Matelson and others, every time somebody talks about that,
Can we stop it here? So again, is this a right-wing talking point? Yes, there are enclaves, like there are Chinatowns, right, of Muslim populations. Are they a threat in the same way that right-wing politicians are selling them? Or is this, again, the same pattern? Invent a threat, inflate it, attach it to a foreign territory, ignore our own complicity, use it to sell a war. Now, the same script is happening, plug in. It's like one of those, those Mad Lib books, right? War with blank, just name a country, connect them to blank, gives us, they are doing blank. It's either they're gassing their own people, they're about to launch on Kuwait, they're weapons of mass destruction. This time it's drug trade coming for your kids. Again, these are not the drugs that are coming into the United States. And the best thing the United States could do to stop the drug war would be to stop participating in it. Let us know what you think.